What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I am your host, Mangone. I'm here with Glock, running a little late, but we had some technical difficulties, but we're here bringing the winners for you guys, ready to talk some MLB, and we got a pretty big slate to talk about here on a Saturday. Typically, they're broken up a bunch, but we got 11 games today, Glock. So how was your Saturday going? Are you excited that the MMA sweats are going on? You know, I won't be watching those, but how is everything going over there for you?
Yeah, man. Like your favorite sport's already going bright and early in the morning. Started a little over an hour ago. So I definitely have that on to the side. But yeah, excited to break down this 11 gamer with you. Definitely tons of games. And, with 11 games on the slate, I'm kind of surprised at the pitching options we have. We kind of have Justin Verlander at the top, and then it kind of somewhat becomes a blur. But, we'll break it down with you guys and, pick out the viable options. We have a guy named Max Meyer making his major league debut. So, yeah, looking forward to breaking it all down with you guys on this fine Saturday. I think we have two of the most early risers in RPS, to be completely sarcastic on this show. But, yeah, it should be a fun two-man booth. Been doing this show with AP and stuff, and it's going to be fun to do it with just you. So, yeah, let's get it.
Yeah, should be a fun time. And Glock, I decided to open up the MMA slate just to see. And no one's fully dead yet, unless you played two fighters. I didn't know if there was someone who dropped like 160, and if you didn't have them, you were dead yet. So that's good to see. Everyone's still alive. And yeah, yes, you are right.
These first two fights have gone to decision, so I think you would have had some fun playing it.
No, I wouldn't know, because I wouldn't have had fun waking up for it, Glock. As you just said before, we're definitely not the early risers, and I was out a bit late last night, so definitely would not wanted to wake up for this card time. But we got some MLB to talk about here, and like you said, we got Verlander at the top, and Justin Verlander is someone who a lot of the year is a plug and play. He definitely had a stretch where he had some struggles, but he's Justin Verlander, right? I don't really have too much worries about him. He's definitely someone that we'll be looking at. Who are some of the guys at the top that you're interested in besides Verlander against the A's, which feels like maybe a free square on this slate? Because again, it's the A's and it's Justin Verlander. So it seems like it's going to be a pretty good spot for him.
Yeah, you go down the list and you just look at Verlander's projection. I know Big T talks about it a lot, but anytime you see one pitcher just leading the slate in projection by a wide margin, it kind of makes me just want to lock and load them and then kind of figure out my, SP2 from there. But I think that's what most people are going to do, right? Verlander's going to definitely have the highest ownership on the slate for sure at pitcher. But, if you're MMEing, it looks like he'll be like 50, 60%, maybe even higher. I would just consider, if you're 150ing, like locking him in or going at least 80% or above, just going extremely overweight, and then just figure out your SP2 later. But yeah,
like here's the one argument you can make to the Verlander fade. The one argument I'll give you is, you have I agree on like the projection gap, right? When you have a guy just like head and shoulders above, you just lock him in there. But you have enough cheap options that have really good projections too. Like Sean Manaea is one of them, right? Like his projection is pretty good here against Arizona, even though Arizona, you don't typically want to target them against righties or against when there's a lefty on the mound, but you can get away with it because then from there, if you, let's say like Manaea ends up being a good value play, well, there's Alex Cobb, who could be a really good value play, right? There's Max Fried and Iowa.
Wrong slate, Mango. Wrong slate. I think that's the night slate.
Oh, do I have the full?
You have everything up.
That's very frustrating. I have the entire slate. Okay, my bad. I have the whole slate. So my apologies. You keep going, Glock. I'm going to fix my settings over here.
Yeah. So once you look at the early slates pitchers, I think you'll come to a realization where, apart from Verlander, in the 10K range, there's not really like a ton of surefire pitching options. Like I was saying earlier, it's kind of surprising to me that on an 11 game slate, we don't really have like, a ton of aces to pick from. So yeah, obviously at 11.1K, you have Justin Verlander leads the slate in price, and, rightfully so, because he's one of the few quote unquote stud pitching options we have on the slate. He leads the slate in K rate at 24.6%. And, if you're a K rate guy, that's somewhat low for, like we're used to guys in like the 30%, like Strider, Cease. And, if you sort it by minimum 400 pitches, he is the slate leader in K rate behind, Max Castillo, who only has 246 pitches, but he has a 30.5% K rate. Lodolo has only 444 pitches and is at a 28.9% K rate. So if you take those guys out of the rankings, Verlander's number one at 24.6%. And he's over 1,500 pitches on the year to put it in perspective and compare it with those guys. So yeah, Verlander is definitely the top option for me. He has the third lowest walk rate at 4.8%, second lowest xWOB at 0.291, and the second lowest expected slugging rate at 0.400. And he gets a home matchup against the A's, which, you know, is a team that I've been targeting a lot. I know we've been targeting a lot. They've struck out at the 10th highest rate versus right-hand pitching since June 25th. And yeah, like I said, he's likely going to come with a ton of ownership, but, you know, I'm just willing to eat the chalk and, you know, just lock him in, as I don't feel like there's like really many other pitching options that are as strong as him. And then, you know, in the only other guy in the 10K range is Max Fried. He kind of had a rough outing against the Mets, but before that, he was like a true model of consistency, right? He posted 20 or more fantasy points in 7 of his last 8 games before that game. You know, he has a second highest K rate on the slate behind Verlander at 23.4%, second lowest walk rate at 4.5%. And he allows the lowest expected slugging rate at 0.363, the lowest xWOB at 0.283. And Washington doesn't strike out often against left-handed pitching, but, you know, behind Verlander, you can make a case that he's going to be the second most reliable option on the slate. So those would be my 2 guys that I'm focused in on the top. It doesn't look like Fried is coming with much ownership, so he could be a potential Verlander pivot for you if you really don't want to play Justin Verlander. But like I said, we'll get into it later, but these options like under these 2 guys aren't as surefire as you would think on a big game, on a big slate.
Well, I definitely don't want to fade Verlander here, Glock, because now that I don't have the all-day slate up, the options are definitely not as good, obviously. So it definitely is looking a little better with some of those, you know, value options. And like, that's kind of sometimes like the route you can make the argument for fading a top-end pitcher, right? The construction could be going for cheaper pitchers. And the one thing that's at least nice is like Verlander has a hefty price tag, right? At 11-1. He's not like, we've typically seen like the most expensive pitchers to play at like 10-6, 10K. Now, I shouldn't say it's like a hefty tag, but it's more expensive than it normally is. At least I'll say that. So, but if you were trying to make it like a different route, it'd be trying to like spend up for all your bats to give it the construction and make it a little different. I think that would be the smartest route to take if you're trying to fade Verlander, right? I don't think I would be fading Verlander for like a straight up Max Fried pivot. I think that's how maybe I try and pull it off. So, and it is tough because the options like Logan Gilbert, 9.7. Do I really want to pay 9.7 for him when I can easily play Verlander? I'm not sure. I kind of like Gilbert over Fried just because Fried isn't really a strikeout guy. That's one of my issues with him. Yes, he's a 4.5 strikeout prop that's like juiced heavily on the over, but like that's simply not like what a strikeout prop is for a 10-4 pitcher, right? He's just more of an efficient pitcher. So I worry about what that ceiling can be. And I feel like Gilbert just has a higher ceiling there against Texas. So I think I'd prefer him. Lodolo, I'm sure our boy DC will be all over him. Again, he's got like a 4.5 strikeout prop, pretty similar to Fried. So if I had to pick one between those 2 guys, that's probably who I'd go to, but it's not like the greatest option because again, St. Louis is right there. It's in St. Louis too, hot there. So you get Cal Quantrill against the Tigers at a similar price tag of 8.1K. He went up against the Tigers, I think 2 starts ago. I believe I didn't mind him, and he only got 4 DK points. So, but it is the Tigers, right? And they do struggle against those righties. So I don't hate Cal Quantrill. I think you can maybe take a shot on him. Man, it's definitely just rough around here. Like Lance Lynn is one of those guys. He is a name, obviously, that like you can make a case for against the Twins, but we know he's had his struggles at times. 4.5 strikeout prop also gets an extreme pitcher's umpire, so that's a little encouraging. And then like Ranger Suarez, similar to that range too. He at least gets Miami in Miami, and we've seen him have ceiling games in the past. So what's your construction block? Is it going to be Justin Verlander and then another top end guy, or like are you going to go down one of these like mid 7K guys, or maybe pumped all the way down to Max Meyer, or maybe a Ryan Yarbrough? I mean, there's a ton of different guys down here that you can make the case for, and you can get low ownership on these guys where like if one of them pops off for a good game, you're in great shape.
Yeah, it's really tough. I would prefer to double spend up if I can. Obviously, you know, with Verlander and Fried, I don't like Gilbert as much as you do. I think I rank Fried above Gilbert. But some of the guys you didn't touch on, I know you hate Taijuan Walker, Tijuana Walker, we call him, but that's just kind of the hand we're dealt on this slate. So I'm just going to talk him up a little bit.
I would just rather go cheaper. I think that's like the argument we should be talking about too, is like because we're talking about SP2s as Fried, Gilbert, and Walker, like just go cheaper, I think is going to be what the move should be. If that makes sense.
And someone touched on it. Can you punt at Meyer at 5K? I think you can. I mean, I don't know if you know much about him, but I looked up some stuff on him. He's 5K making his debut for the Marlins. 3.72 ERA, 1.0 WHIP, 65 strikeouts to 19 walks and 58 innings in AAA, and he was selected 3rd overall by the Mariners in 2020. He's considered their top pitching prospect. And I kind of have a blurb here that I got from an article. Meyer's slider was the consensus best pitch in the 2020 draft. And while it wasn't quite as dominant last summer, it was still a well above average offering that usually ranged from 85 to 89 miles per hour, with tremendous horizontal break and some depth as well. His fastball sits at 92 to 95 miles per hour and can reach 100 with riding action up in the strike zone. While he had little need for a changeup in college, his fading mid-80s cambio shows potential but needs more consistency. Though he's just 6 feet tall, Meyer is strong and athletic and repeats his fluid delivery well. After battling the strike zone in his first 2 months as a pro, he did a better job of trusting his stuff afterwards. Now the next step will be refining his command. While there's no reason he shouldn't pitch in the front half of a big league rotation, his stuff and competitive makeup could make him a lights out closer if so desired. So, yeah, I mean, the pitching options are definitely thin. Meyer will definitely be in my pool, but we'll talk about it later. You could definitely make a case stacking against him since it will be his debut. And, if you don't think his command is there, these Philly guys, Schwarber, he's been kind of cold as of late, but obviously he can bomb it out of the park anytime. And I mean, the options are definitely slim. And I guess guys that we didn't touch on, Taijuan Walker, Mike Mikolas, I actually have some consideration in. He gets to go up against Cincinnati, who ranks 1st in K rate since June 25th. But nothing really pops off the page for him. 19.7% K rate. He does have the 4th lowest walk rate on the slate at 4.9%. And, he's had upside performances where, he's put up 30 plus fantasy points. And, obviously he gets a home matchup and, it's Cincinnati, right? And then another guy I can't believe I really wrote up in the 8K range is Dean Kramer. It was kind of wild because I wrote the premium article today and, just writing up these guys on 11 game slate. It was just, I couldn't imagine it. But, Dean Kramer, I think he's like a similar option to Mikolas where nothing really sticks off the page, but he gets a decent matchup against Tampa in that park. They've struck out at the 13th highest rate since right-handed pitching since June 25th. He also has a similar K rate as Mikolas, 19.4%. And he's only given up 2 home runs on the year, which is tied for the least given up on the slate. So, at 8.5K, he's posted 19 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 starts. So, he's definitely an option there. I think pitching points will be definitely a premium on this slate for sure. So we kind of want to be careful of who we're choosing on this large slate. But like I keep on repeating, I feel like the options are slim. And, if I can, I prefer to spend up. And then I think my second maybe favorite path is like one spend up and Meyer potentially. But we'll have to see. I'll have to run the opto a couple more times and see, like if I want like a 5-man Blue Jay stack, 5-man Atlanta stack, what kind of pitches is it giving me? So we'll see.
Yeah, I think definitely prioritizing your SP1, then prioritizing your stacks, and then the SP2 does not seem like a bad idea on this slate. I saw Landa brought up a good point in the chat. Dylan Bundy should be on play. And the reason why is, have you seen the White Sox lineup today, Glock?
Yeah, I know Luis Robert, your boy, I think he left due to lightheadedness last night or something like that. So yeah, he's not in the lineup. And
no Eloy either. So it goes Anderson, right, Moncada, Vaughn, Abreu, Sheets, Pollock, Harrison, Zavalia, and Engel. And I mean, it's not the worst lineup in the MLB, right? But it is a watered down lineup. It's definitely not the same. And on a slate where we are looking for guys that, I mean, are going to be low owned and can kind of have some upside. And like, I mean, Bundy can go the distance, right? If he's pitching well. That's one thing I kind of look for sometimes on these slates is like, at least give me a guy that can go long, right? Like that's at least the encouraging thing. So yeah, we'll have to see. I don't think it's the worst idea. Not the greatest strikeout prop at 3.5, but it is what it is. And then going back to your Max Meyer point, his strikeout prop's around 4.5, which like, I mean, I talked about it before. Max Fried is 10.4 and his strikeout prop is 4.5. One dude is 10.4K. The other one is 5K. I mean, Vegas does know something. I mean, that's definitely one of the reasons why there's some money made by these sports books. And then it is in Miami also. That's another really encouraging thing with this game. So point we're getting at here is I think that this Max Meyer idea is not a bad idea. And if you do have any questions about Max Meyer, you know who definitely can answer them the most? DC in the Discord chat. I'm sure he's hanging out. I'm sure he can give you some advice on that. I know we got a great breakdown from Glock. So hey, we got a lot for you here over at Run Pure Sports though. So if you haven't signed up, go sign up now. Use that code RPS Heater 25, get you 25% off. But one last thing before we kind of move on, guys, please like and subscribe to this channel. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate it here over at Run Pure Sports. So hit that like button. That way we can get out those plays of the day. But Glock, any other pitchers you want to discuss, or do we want to just kind of move on over to the hitters?
No, I mean, I think I hit on everything. I know I kind of read off that little Meyer blurb, but I'm definitely going to sneak into DC's DMs because I know he's like the pitching whiz here at RPS and kind of get his thoughts. And I'm sure he'll post them in the Discord if he's not already about his thoughts on Meyer. So, you know, if you're not in the Discord, definitely get in there. I'm sure he'll have some gems to say about Meyer, maybe good or bad. But yeah, I definitely want to get some more of his feedback on Meyer. And yeah, I mean, I think pitching is kind of straightforward here. You know, I think the points will come at a premium, kind of want to prioritize SP1. And then, you know, based on the offensive stack that you really have conviction on, that'll kind of dictate where you can go at SP2, right? Because you don't really want to jam in a guy like Dean Creamer, Mike Mikolas. At least I don't, or Taiwan Walker, you know? So, you know, just focus on your SP1, pick the offense that you like, and then kind of just see what direction that guides you in for SP2. That's kind of the direction I'll be leaning in today.
Yeah, agree 100%. I mean, it makes way too much sense just to make sure you get that stack in. Like, don't sacrifice Vladimir Guerrero in your Blue Jays stack for like one of your starting pitchers. That's not Justin Verlander, right? That's just something that you need to think about when you're kind of rostering your teams. But let's move on over. Let's go over and talk about the hitters. Before we do that, though, Steady Wizzy's asking, how do I get in the Discord? Well, you got to sign up over at Run Pure Sports. It is a premium Discord. So once you do sign up, you head on over and you get a notification probably to your email that helps you sign up. But if you can't find that, you hit Discord chat on the site at runpuresports.com. And then from there, it'll lead you to a button that you click and it just keeps leading you step by step. And then from there, you got to follow the How to Get Started channel once you're actually in the Discord. And you go onto your RPS profile, you put your name. So let's say my name is Glaucoma. I just put my name Glaucoma. If it's a lowercase G, I have to make it lowercase. It's a capital G. I make it uppercase, and then it should let you in. So should be a step-by-step process for you if you're signed up over here. But Glock, let's go talk about the hitters here. Obviously, it's a pretty big hitting slate. And when there's not a lot of pitchers to love, there's got to be a lot of bats, right? At least to some degree. Even though there's a lot of mid-tier pitchers, we'll definitely break it down. We'll find some pretty good ones for the people. Let's start it off with this first game. It's the White Sox and it's the Twins. And it's Bundy and Lynn. And Lance Lynn has definitely had his struggles with some lefties. And the Twins got some really good lefties, right? Like they got Luis Ariz, who's pretty good. They got Max Kepler, who always can bang one out. Jorge Polanco, who Big T always loves to play. And I like playing too. So, you know, I'll be looking at some Polanco today. Alex Kirilloff, another cheap lefty. That's a pretty good option. And then there are two righties that at the top, Correa and Buxton. They're both just like good options. So overall, this is a pretty good Twins lineup. You know, I know our boy DC will probably be on him a little bit. What's your thoughts here on the Twins in this spot against Lance Lynn?
Yeah, I think some of us at RPS have been on the Twins, and it kind of hasn't worked out in this series so far, but I do think it could work out here. Lance Lynn is definitely a guy I've been targeting as of late. And on the opposite side, I know we kind of, Landa kind of talked about Dylan Bundy, but, you know, I think it's an interesting game stack spot in general. I think I do prefer the Twin side if I had to pick one side. But, you know, obviously Lance Lynn and Dylan Bundy, they both have the, you know, ability to get blown up at any time, right? So, yeah, I mean, guys I want to target on Minnesota, obvious guys, Buxton, Polanco, Arise, Kepler, Kirilloff, if he's in the lineup. Let me see. The lineup is out, right? Okay, yeah. So they did put like a bunch of lefties in there. Looks like Gordon's a lefty, Kirilloff, Kepler, Polanco, Arise. So yeah, I would focus on all those guys. Obviously, Buxton's always a good play. And then, obviously on the White Sox side, we kind of talked about how it's watered down because, we don't have Robert in the lineup since he left last night's game with lightheadedness. So that kind of sucks. Eloy's not in there, which also sucks, but it kind of makes the stack more obvious, right? Like you have guys, you're obviously going to prioritize Timmy Anderson, Jose Abreu, Yoan Moncada. He's always cheap. He's been cheap so far. And I've been kind of either one-offing him or kind of making like a White Sox mini as of late. So those guys, obviously I would prioritize in a White Sox stack. And then, you have guys like AJ Pollock, Sheets, Gavin Sheets, and then Vaughn, is he in there? Yeah, Andrew Vaughn, he's in there. I think those guys are always viable as well. And, I actually don't mind Sebi Zavala as a catcher either. So I think there's viability, up and down the lineup on both sides of this game, which makes it interesting from, a game stack perspective. And also, if you just wanted to pick one side to stack up, as a 5-man or 3-man. I like this game a lot offensively for sure.
All right. Yep. And it's a 9 total, right? So pretty good spot here. Not one to be ignored. Definitely like the Twins side the most, though. I'll definitely have exposure to them. Let's head on over to the next game. Let's talk about the Reds and the Cardinals. And Lodolo, definitely a solid pitcher. People will be rostering him a little bit today. Maybe not a ton, but he's definitely going to get some ownership because people like rostering these younger prospects at times. But the Cardinals, I mean, they almost have a 5 total, right? This is an 8.5 total. It's 97 degrees, wind blowing out 10 miles an hour. How do we not consider the Cardinals here, Glock? They seem like a really good play. I'm definitely interested in them. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know actually, because, it's such a large slate for me. And that St. Louis ballpark is something I don't really target much. I do think Lodolo, is suspect in some categories, but on such a large slate, I personally don't think I'll be targeting this game. I think Mikolas is, I obviously touted him up earlier. Cincinnati #1 in K rate since June 25th. And then, I respect Lodolo enough to where, I don't really want to stack against him. I've been kind of taking the stance in MLB where if it's like too mediocre or to average to goodish pitchers that I somewhat respect, I don't really want to target them unless it's like an ownership play. And it's not like Mikolas or Lodolo will come with a ton of ownership. So I feel like there's not really leverage in that. And so, I'll just keep going down the list, which we'll talk about later on games to target, but I'll target the bad pitchers and good hitting environments. And I know someone said winds are blowing out, around 10 miles per hour in St. Louis, but I think it's such a large slate. I'm personally going to fade it, but I am curious on your thoughts about, how to stack up St. Louis and your case to stack against Lodolo.
Yeah, I mean, the case is on the weather, right? Obviously, it's a good spot. Vegas, they have it as a pretty good total. So I'm just not completely ignoring it, right? I mean, also they're -183. I know Miles Mikolas is like a good real life pitcher, but it definitely is encouraging seeing like some of this stuff for Vegas. I want to see what the lineup is. I think that matters. Also, one thing that's kind of nice about the Cardinals, if you want to do 2 spend up pitchers, right? There's always a lot of value within this Cardinals lineup, right? Which is kind of nice. Maybe you are doing an expensive 5-man stack, and maybe that like Cardinals 3-man stack is kind of cheap. Maybe it's like a Tommy Edman at 3.6K, and then it's like Tyler O'Neill at 3.5, and then paired with like Brendan Donovan at like 2.9, right? I think that's the one thing that's really nice about this lineup. Also, Goldschmidt and Arenado are not coming in at like a premium right now. We were spending 5.8, 5.9 for them. Now they're 4.9. I mean, that's kind of encouraging. It would be nice if we had like another spend up pitcher that we were like dying to play, but I think they're pretty good for that mini stack to be able to jam in everything that you want. Maybe get you the big bats and it gets you like a Max Fried, like maybe get you a Fried and a Verlander that you want, Clock. I mean, I'm not dying for that, but if you do, that could definitely be a route that helps you out. And it's a pretty good total for the prices. So that's my argument. Have I sold you at all on it, Clock?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't think we have the full lineup yet for them, do we? Let me refresh.
No, we don't have the full lineup yet, but okay. I'm seeing like the projected one and like the prices are just nice for sure in there.
Yeah. I mean, the projected lineup has like 4 guys at least in 2Ks and below. So it's interesting for sure. I mean, we'll go through the games and I'll keep soaking in your thoughts, and maybe St. Louis ends up being one of my top stacks somehow by the end of the show. I don't know, but Yeah, I mean, you're definitely selling me on it a little bit here.
Well, I put them in there on my 3-entry SE, and then I took them out because I want to wait. I want to keep going through it because there's other things that we have to discuss. I know one team coming up soon that I'll definitely have a lot of, no doubt in my mind. But let's go over to the next game. Let's talk about the Mets and the Cubs. And it's not a win game, but it's winds blowing in 10 miles an hour, 75 degrees, 7.5 total. Taijuan Walker on the mound. So is Marcus Stroman. Any interest here in this one, Lock? Like, I don't know how I can get behind the bats in this game. If it was a shorter slate, maybe, but I just think we can't do it. It's a 7.5 total. We move on to the next one, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Cincinnati St. Louis game for me. Obviously, I kind of like Taijuan Walker, so definitely no interest on the Cubs side. And you mentioned the wind already, so yeah, definitely no interest on the Cubs side. And then Stroman, I think, is the pitcher, right? Marcus.
Yep, it's a Stroman revenge game.
Yeah, we get a little maybe revenge game, but he could get blown up. Maybe I have some interest in like a Mets mini or something like that. But I feel like he'll. He's got revenge in his veins, and I feel like he minimizes the damage enough just to where I really don't want to target this game offensively and just focus on better offensive spots on the slate.
Well, he said he hated his time with the Mets, so maybe the Mets are mad at him. Maybe the hitters want the revenge too. You never know. That's the way narrative street can be played, Clock.
Yeah. Do we know his relationship with those guys? Maybe he has some bad blood with like some of those guys, and yeah, it could get interesting for sure.
Yeah, it should be fun, but. Let's go over to the next game, the one I actually want to talk about a lot. I want to talk about the Blue Jays and the Royals. And love the Blue Jays yesterday. Definitely did pretty well. And their lineup, it's looking good again, right? Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kirk, Bichette, Hernandez, Gurriel, Chapman, Espinal, and Danny Jansen. I feel like you can stack it any which way you want. Also, we talked about it on this slate. We want to prioritize our 5-man stack. We want to play Verlander, and then we want to look at the 5-man and make sure you get in the guys that you want. I'm not saying you play 1 through 5 and just call it a day, but these are some expensive price tags on these options. So, Glock, talk to me about this game. Is this a spot where you're just loading up on the Blue Jays once again, or are you looking at like maybe the Braves on this slate or Coors Field, which we got coming up soon?
Yeah, I mean, since we're on the Toronto game, I've been absolutely hammering the Blue Jays since the start of this series, and I don't think there's really going to be a difference today. Like, as you know, or some of you may not know, the Royals are putting out, a pretty watered down lineup due to the COVID restrictions that they have in Canada. They're not letting any of the guys that are not vaccinated to, obviously cross the borders. And yeah, their pitching staff, some of those guys got held back as well. So I think you can really stack up the Blue Jays here, 1 through 9. Maybe less on Espinal. He hasn't been hitting that well. He's actually been pinch hit for, I think this past weekend, I think they pinch hit him for Big EO. So that kind of concerns me. He was kind of one of the hotter hitters, about a month ago for Toronto. And now he's, near the bottom of the order. So I think I would be interested in, practically everyone except him. But, I think we always mention on these shows when you're stacking up, a powerful offense like Toronto, just make sure you try and get at least like 3 to 4 of those true power bat guys, right? Obviously, you don't want to stack up 1 through 5, but try to get some of those power bats like Vlad, Springer, Bichette, Teoscar, Kirk. Get a grouping in Saber of those guys, and just make sure like when you're optoing a 5-man stack of Toronto, it's not just giving you like Chapman has power, but I'm just using an example like. Let's say a lineup, you get Verlander and then you get like Meyer as your SP, and then it's jamming in like Chapman, Espinal, and kind of the bottom of the order guys. I feel like you want to prioritize at least some of the top of the order guys, and that's kind of where it gets difficult when you want to double spend a pitcher, right? Because you can't just go like Verlander, Fried, and then jam in Vlad, Springer, Bichette. It gets kind of difficult. You don't have an infinite salary, so. That's kind of why I like maybe taking the Meyer route today with at your SP2, because you kind of get that salary savings and it allows you to get an offense like Toronto, Atlanta that are kind of priced up. But yeah, I kind of went on a long-winded blurb there. But yeah, I love Toronto here, going right back to them. I've been hammering them since, the start of the series. And then, I don't have any interest in the Royals side at all. You just look at the lineup that they're putting out. Bobby Witt's obviously their best hitter. And then you got a bunch of guys, Vinny, the Italian Nightmare. I guess he has some power, but other guys like Olivares, Prado, Rivera, O'Hearn. I think O'Hearn, we were kind of touting last year, but I feel like he hasn't really panned out that much. Nicky Lopez, Eaton, Rivero. I don't know. These guys, maybe I have to talk to AP and get some more insight on them, but definitely not an offense that, I want to target on today's slate.
Yeah, definitely not loving to play those Royals. I don't think we'll see AP with the flag running around. I do think what we'll see is lots of Blue Jays in people's lineups. I definitely will like them, but we got 2 games coming up here that I think will spread the ownership out where I won't have to worry about it as much. And I agree, Glock, if you are going to play guys down in this bottom of the lineup, I think I'm likely playing I'm probably playing 4 through the 1 through 5. And then I'm mixing one of Gurriel or Chapman. You could make it Danny Jansen, but not dying to do that, but it's definitely something you can do to be really unique and different. And maybe it's just changing Alejandro Kirk to Jansen and still playing like 3 of those guys at the top. Certainly a way that you can go about when building out your lineup. So lots of guys to like. I do like the idea of just not really messing with Espinal because he definitely seems like he could be a pinch hit risk. But let's move on over to the next game. Let's go to the Pirates. Let's go to the Rockies. 11.5 total. And yeah, this is not a bad game. Wind is blowing in, but it is going to be hot here. Going to be a nice 90 degrees, Glock. I was near the ballpark last night, so got to see it. And hey, Jose Urena on the mound, and man, it would be fun to just take a trip down there and watch him, because the last time I was there, he did not get blown up. Maybe I'll have to make a trip to the park today just to see him get blown up, but it is the Pirates. So one thing I kind of struggle with sometimes is like when I know a team like the Pirates and Coors is going to be chalk, do I really want to play like a chalkier Pirates team? This is like something like we obviously had yesterday that went on. On top of that, yes, Jose Urena is not good, but sometimes these like older pitchers, they can be crafty and find a way to get the job done. So are you going to be playing any Rockies against Mitch Keller, or are you going to play any Pirates against Jose Urena here?
Yeah, I mean, we saw last night, right? The Rocky side went off. So you could see more of the same here, right? You have Mitch Keller on the mound for the Pirates, and then Jose Urena, as you touched on, for the Rockies. I think you kind of touched on it, but I consider these two like mediocre offenses, right? It's not like they're like an Atlanta Braves going into Coors, or like a Dodgers going into Coors, where they're going to soak up a ton of ownership just because of the name and the hitters that they have. Obviously, you have like O'Neal Cruz. I played him as a one-off last night, and he disappointed. So I think you could consider him as a one-off. But just the fact that these two are like kind of meh teams, I'll likely lean on the fade, just due to the fact that they'll both come with ownership, and it's in Coors Field, right? So people just love Coors. So I lean fading both sides, but obviously you can make a case just like last night if you want to stack it up. I would just make sure, be conscious of how you're stacking up, kind of like Toronto. Don't go 1 through 5. Make sure you get into the bottom of the order, guys. I don't think we have the lineup yet for either team, but I think Pittsburgh yesterday had Jake Marisnick at the bottom of the lineup. Maybe mix him in. And then for Colorado, once we get their lineup, you can get into guys like Sam Hilliard and Garrett Hampson if they're in the lineup. Just don't go 1 through 5 in such a environment where it's going to be extremely chalky. So it's Coors. We kind of touch on it, but I lean fading. And obviously Urena sucks, and we've targeted him his past 2 starts, but he's been pretty decent, right? 89 pitches, 90 pitches. And, he's only putting up 12.2 and 9.5 fantasy points, but 10 ground balls, 11 ground balls. He's minimizing the damage, and he's only given up 1 and 2 earned runs in both of his two games. And the first one was against the Dodgers. So I probably won't be getting to Coors today, but you can always make the case for sure.
Yeah, that is one of the fears. Like I said, like some of these older pitchers, sometimes they can find a way to get it done, and it can be, if it's going to be chalkier, sometimes I don't think it's a bad idea to get away from it. But Rockies, the one thing I want to talk about that you mentioned, yeah, they went off yesterday, and I could see them going off again today against Keller. Their prices are expensive, right? And that's what's going to keep their ownership down. And I think they're a really interesting stack here. And they're the team, they're the favorite right now in this spot. They have a higher implied total. So don't ignore the Rockies on this slate, because I think they could easily get ignored. And I think they're easily going to get ignored. Like if I did like the rankings of like who people are looking to roster, I think they're looking to roster the Blue Jays and the Braves, and then the Rockies would come after them if you were making the order of those options of the top offenses. So that's kind of my thoughts. And that's why I think I like the Rockies a little bit. I think they're going to be contrarian and a little under-owned. So definitely going to get some exposure to them on this slate. Hopefully they can keep riding those hot bats out. Let's shift on over and talk about the Braves, though. I know there's a lot of people at Run Pure Sports that work here that love talking about the Braves, Glock. I know we are not the Braves guys, but if you want those like hardcore Braves takes, you can get them in the Discord chat. I promise you that. Definitely there'll be people there to discuss it. Glock, how about you though? Are you interested in the Braves? I always feel like sometimes in these spots, like I got to pick one of these offenses, right? It's like Jays or Braves. That yesterday, that was my decision. It was, do I do the Jays? Do I do the Braves? And I went with the Jays instead of the Braves, and worked out perfectly fine. I mean, both offenses, I think they both had 8 runs each. So it didn't really matter that much. What's your thoughts here on the Braves against Espino? Is he someone that you're going to target? It is in Washington, which is typically a better hitter's park. It's going to be 80 degrees, wind blowing out 5 miles an hour. So what's your thoughts here on this game?
Yeah, before we move on, Hingo A, Mania cash pitcher. I don't know if you and Mangone were looking at the same slate before we started, but just make sure you're on the right slate, Hingo, before you start asking questions. I think that's for later for sure. Which
yeah,
you know,
Hingo's on the all day slate with me. He's looking at the wrong thing. It was very confusing, Glock, because it's an 11-game slate and I see like a ton of pitchers listed. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on the right slate. Like this is wrong because there's just so many there. But typically when it's like a mix between the all day and like the early or the main, there's like only like 5 games or so. So that's why it was very, very confusing. But yes, Mania cash game pitcher for the late slate. Agreed. Great spot for Mania there. Do not play him on this slate. That's not possible. But Glock, continue.
Yeah. So, you know, if you've been reading my premium articles, every day that I write them, you know, there's a stack spot, and every day that the Nationals are on the slate, I'm always stacking against them. So today will be no different. Yesterday we stacked against Corbin Burns, had some success, and I think today it'll be no different with Paolo Espino on the mound. You know, like I said, I've been stacking against the Nats all year. I feel like a broken record, but I'm just going to continue to do it. And then the good thing about Atlanta is that you can stack up the entire lineup for the most part, you know, apart from Robinson Cano. He's someone I haven't really been including in my stacks. You know, Michael Harris is always unowned at the bottom of the lineup and, you know, has a ton of upside. So, and then you have your obvious guys like Acuna, Riley, Olsen, Swanson, Rosario, Duvall, Contreras. You can Darno. I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup, but you can mix them all in, which is good about the Braves. And, you know, obviously don't go 1 through 5 again, but, you know, you can mix in all those guys. They all have home run upside. And yeah, I mean, Max Fried is one of my favorite pitching options on the slate. So I definitely have no interest on the Nats side as an offense. But yeah, Atlanta is definitely one of my top stacks. I'll need to talk with my boy Gary with his Braves hat on and see if he has any Braves takes for me. I don't know if he's in the chat, but you know, maybe if he's on the Braves, then I'll be on the Braves as well. We got to go hand in hand with our Braves, man.
I mean, I don't know if I can go hand in hand with the Braves. I'm a Mets fan, Glock, you know, and these Braves are annoying, but they do make money at times. You know, you have to consider them. And I like them when they're normally lower owned, and maybe they do get some lower ownership on this slate. Who do you think is the chalkiest stack on this slate, Glock? Now that we talked about like 3 pretty big offenses, which team do you think gains the most traction here?
I don't know. I think Coors is just going to get more ownership than you would think. Definitely the Pittsburgh side, just because of how cheap they are. So both sides in that game, I think the Pittsburgh side is going to come in more owned. And then I actually think Toronto will be, you know, the next chalkiest after that. And then maybe Atlanta some. I mean, I think Atlanta and Toronto are like the 2 obvious offenses after the Coors game. So, you know, we could see some flip-flop action between those 2, but I think those 4 teams would be the chalkiest if I had to guess: Colorado, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Toronto.
All right. Well, one thing I want to mention about the Braves, if you are going to play them, which I think they're in play, obviously, fade Robinson Cano. Like, yeah, let others save the value play with him. Like, I don't understand how the Braves, they have such a good 1 through 9, right? Their 1 through 9 is awesome. And I'm sure Robinson Cano is now going to hit a home run because I'm talking badly about him. But I think he's a good fade. Just don't put him in there. Let others use that as a value play throughout their lineups. Find someone else to put in there at second base. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to see how the lineup shakes out. I don't know what it's going to be. We still don't have it yet. So that's important because maybe you'll see like a surprise value play in there that could change some stuff up. But Braves certainly in play. Get to play in Washington. Should be a good spot for these guys. And they have some expensive price tags for sure. And Eddie Rosario is a nice little value that's within that lineup that I would definitely want to get some exposure to against Espino. But moving on to the next game, Glock, we got the Mariners, we got the Rangers, and this is in Texas. Roof will likely be closed. 8 total. What's your thoughts here on this game, Glock?
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, they're red hot, right? They've won 12 straight games. Their offense has looked to have got it going. Julio Rodriguez hit a grand slam last night. They put up 6+ runs in 4 of their last 5 games. Last night they put up 8 runs, like I said, and today, they get to go up against Spencer Howard. I know RPS has kind of been on him, but just looking at his metrics, I personally don't think he's very good at all, at least from what we've seen so far. He allows the highest expected slugging rate on the slate at 0.655 and also the highest exit velocity at 92.9 miles per hour. We don't have the lineup yet, but obviously Julio Rodriguez would be my priority in any Seattle stack. And then, you have followed by power guys like Winker, Eugenio Suarez, JP Crawford, Carlos Santana, if he's in the lineup. And then, I don't mind bottom of the order guys like Haggerty if he's in the lineup. He's shown some boom bust upside. He looks like he'll either get you like 0 or like 20+ fantasy points. So I think Seattle is definitely an interesting option. And, I didn't mention them with the Toronto Atlanta chalkier stack. So I think they could be a somewhat contrarian option on today's slate. And then, on the opposite side in Texas, I think you like Gilbert, right? But I think Gilbert, he's just good enough, right, to just not get shelled, even if he may not put up like a high ceiling performance game. I don't think he's someone you want to stack against on today's slate. But Corey Seager, right? It feels like he's hot as ever. It feels like he's homered in like every game for a while now. I think he could be an interesting one-off option if you're not rostering Logan Gilbert.
Yep, good points being brought up there. And one guy that's been hot is Corey Seager, right? The guy's been absolutely mashing the ball. So someone, if I was MMEing, I would want to make sure I had some exposure to. I would not be Xing him out completely. He's just been absolutely mashing at the shortstop position. If you have some, extra salary, perfectly fine with getting him in your lineups. I mean, this is since July 8th, clock. 23, 21, 19, 16, 16, 9, 13, 14. That's a lot of DK points. So even though it's against Logan Gilbert, I'd still fire away on Corey Seager. He's been absolutely mashing the ball. Let's head on over to the next game. Before we do that, guys, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton over here at Run Pure Sports. We got 276 watching, 107 likes. So get those home. We would appreciate it. That way we can give out those plays of the day. But yeah, let's head on over this next game. Let's talk about the Tigers and the Guardians. And hey, Michael Pineda, he's definitely a pitcher you can pick on, right? And the Guardians, their offense, they always pop up in the optimizers, right? As like value plays in the 3-man stacks. Jose Ramirez pops up in there because he always typically mashes the ball. How's he been doing lately, Glock? Is he healthier or better now? It seems like he's starting to get at least a little bit going now. And maybe he's a little healthier. What do you think, Glock?
Yeah, I don't know much in regards to his health, but I love JSURab, man. He's like, watching him play is like one of the funniest and joyous things I think I feel about watching baseball. Him running the bases is just awesome. Him and Alejandro Kirk, definitely my favorite base runners in MLB for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think this game...
Is that because Luka's your favorite basketball player? They got similar weights. Is that
that was good. I like that. Yeah, I guess so. I like the thick fat guys in professional sports. So yeah, I mean, you have a point there for sure. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Michael Pineda, I don't think is very good. He's kind of minimized the damage this year, but, kind of comparing his metrics to the other guys on the slate, he allows the second highest expected slugging rate on the slate at 0.612, third highest xWOBA at 0.403, and then the highest exit velocity second highest exit velocity at 92 miles per hour. And that's all behind the guy we just talked about in the previous game, Spencer Howard. So yeah, Pineda is not very good. He also has the third lowest K rate at 12.5%. And, anytime you can get those kind of metrics against guys like JSURab, Franmil, Josh Naylor, those guys with power in the Cleveland stack, those would be my priorities. And then, you have guys obviously like Ahmed Rosario, Jimenez. I think, yeah, he's in the lineup at the 5 hole. So yeah, I think they're an interesting stack as well. And then, an interesting thing about Cleveland, they have 3 guys that are 2K in the lineup. Straw, I think he sucks. I wouldn't put him in, but just making that point further, they have 2 guys that are exactly stone min, Miles Straw, Jones, and Mail, the catcher. So I feel like, if you do want to double spend up a pitcher, this lineup has some salary relief that you can go to. Franmil is still super cheap at 3-1. He's like a 4K, 5K plus guy usually when, at least last year, right? He has a ton of power. So I would definitely consider, a Cleveland stack today. And then, on the Detroit side, I don't really love Quantrill. I think he's the pitcher, right? Yeah, Quantrill. I don't have much faith in him either, but I don't think I would 5-man Detroit on a slate like this. Maybe more so if you want to consider them, I'd be do like a mini stack. Maybe consider like Javi Baez, Riley Green has been really good. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to consider a 5-man Detroit on an 11-game slate. I just think that's kind of disgusting, and you're kind of sick if you want a 5-man Detroit on the slate.
Yeah, no 5-man Detroits. That's a terrible idea. I don't mind five. I mean, you could do 5-man Guardians. 3-man Guardians is probably better for me. I'd like, maybe like a Jose Ramirez, a Franmil Reyes, and maybe your cousin Steven Kwan. We can throw him in there. And then I wouldn't mind also going like.
I forgot about him. He's my boy. He's my cousin. I didn't even mention him. Gosh.
I know. I was so shocked you didn't mention Steven Kwan there. But if you wanted to fade Jose Ramirez in the 3-man stack for like a cheap one, you could do like a Steven Kwan, Franmil Reyes, and then like a Luke Malle, which is like a full punt, right? Or whoever their catcher is. They don't have an expensive catcher. So that's a route where like if you're just fully punting catcher to make things work, that's something that you could do for sure as like a little mini stack. But obviously Tigers and Guardians, not the greatest game on the slate. There's a lot of other options to talk about. So let's go on over to the next game. We got about 3 games left here on this slate to break down. Next one up, it's the Orioles and it's the Rays. We got an 8 implied total here, and I just typically don't play bats in Tampa Bay. Glock, is this just a fade for you, or are you any interest here in these options?
Yeah, I'm hand in hand with you. I know some people in the chat have said Ryan Yarbrough is not very good, but I don't know. Baltimore, I feel like people are jamming them in a lot just because of their price and, just in the hopes that they're going to go off eventually. But like you said, bad park for offense. I'll just stay away. I kind of made a case for Dean Kramer, earlier in the show. So definitely don't want any Tampa Bay bats. And then, yeah, just going to fade this game in general for sure.
Yep, definitely a fade here. Let's go on over to the next game. We got Oakland and the Astros. And of course, we're not playing Oakland against Verlander. If you are playing Oakland against Verlander, just find a nice charity, go donate it to that. It'd be very much appreciated there. But you know what we could do? We could definitely play some Astros. I don't think they're out of the question. It's in Houston. They get a pretty good spot against Jared Koenig. What are you doing here, Glock, with this Houston side?
One question for you, Mango. Aren't like the day A's, like, is it a bit like, or is it just like an RPS Discord bit? Because every time I see the A's on a day slate, I see like people type that in the chat. I don't know if it's like a real bit within like the actual like world, or is it an RPS thing?
I think it's an RPS thing. I don't think. I mean, they can't get like 2,000 people to show up to the game, so I don't think it's an actual bit, but it seems like more of an RPS thing. I'll say that.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I just want to touch on that, and then yeah, like you said, I don't have any interest on the Oakland side. Just gonna lock and load Verlander. I just think he's one of the best pitching options on the slate. And then I do have some interest in the Astros, despite their potentially watered down lineup. We don't have it yet, but we'll need to see if Altuve is in. And, obviously they won't have Yordan, I don't think, which sucks. But I was on him last night. I think JT touched on it on the premium show. But, this is going to lead to low ownership, right? Like no one really wants to play, the Astros without Jose Altuve or Yordan Alvarez. So I think we can go right to them because, they get a matchup against Jared Koenig, who I don't think is very good at all. He has the second lowest K rate on the slate at 11.1%, second highest walk rate at 12.2%. These are all behind Jose Urena, who obviously, we think sucks. And Koenig, he also allows the 4th highest expected slugging rate on the slate at 0.556. And, I did mention the watered down lineup, but we still have viability up and down the lineup without them, right? It just makes your stack a little more clear and easier. You're going to have your guys like Kyle Tucker, who you want to prioritize if you're stacking them up. Bregman, Jeremy Pena, those 3 guys, if they're in there, I would want to prioritize because they have the most power. And then, you can mix and match the other guys like Matt Jevic, if he's in the lineup, Myers, Gurriel, McCormick, Alemis Diaz. I would probably stay away from Maldonado, but I feel like every time I play him, he gets a 0. And then when I'm off him, he'll just like randomly dong. So yeah, I have some interest in the Astros for sure. I don't think you'll get them at much ownership either, which is nice, just due to their watered down lineup.
Yeah, I definitely like Houston here in this spot. And it is in Houston, right? That's the one encouraging thing. I think part of the daytime A's is when they're typically like in Oakland. Maybe that's part of it too. That's probably a Stevie Boyton question. So ask him that in the Discord chat. He'll be able to let you know for sure. We got one game left, and man, like it's not a great one because of the park. Like I kind of said to Mike Gary in the chat, he asked kind of a question, or not Mike Gary, Mike Gray. He said, why would you fade Mountcastle, Mancini, Santander, Hayes, Urias, Mateo versus Yarbrough? Well, it's simple. These parks, Tampa Bay and Miami, like when have you like looked at a slate clock and you're like, oh man, I got burned by not playing like that park. You know what I mean? It feels like they're never on the winning lineup. It doesn't seem like this Miami park's going to be on the winning lineup here either. So what's your overall thoughts here on this one, Glock, Miami and Philadelphia?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned it earlier in the show about Ranger Suarez being like, a viable pitching option. I think he's okay. He's coming back from the IL, so something I would consider is like stacking against someone coming off from the IL. But I think it's such a big slate. You don't really need to force a Marlins stack here. It's kind of like 5-manning Detroit, right? I just don't really want to play the Marlins on such a big slate. And yeah, I kind of touched on, Max Meyer, pitching earlier. He's one of the top pitching prospects for the Marlins, number 3 pick. I do think he's somewhat viable as a play, but obviously if you think he gets shelled and won't have his command, I can't fault you for a Philly stack, right? Schwarber was like insanely hot, and I think he's put like 5 straight goose eggs up in a row. And, he could revive some of that magic here, against Meyer. But, I do like Meyer, but if you want to stack Philly, I don't blame you. Schwarber, Hoskins, Castellanos, Hall, those guys would be my priorities in a Philly stack. And then, you can mix it in with, guys like Didi Gregorius, Alec Bohm, Munoz, Vierling, whoever's in the lineup, that's cheap. You can kind of mix and match with those guys. But I kind of lean fading this game in general, and, probably just playing the pitching if I'm playing anyone in Meyer at 5K.
Yeah, and Chris, so early in the season, Rays Park was churning out runs. Well, so here's one of the arguments too to be made for that, and I think this is a good point to talk about with how baseball is and what's going to happen once we come in September. Nowhere else was churning out runs because of the weather, right? Well, now the weather is up, so I think those Rays and the Miami parks, they come more in play in like May and April and like September when the weather's not as good. Right now in like July, it just doesn't seem like a good idea to really go to those spots. So that's kind of typically how I play it. Obviously it's slate to slate, use those Vegas totals. I think that's an important way to do it, but we didn't have as high Vegas totals in the past, right? Now we have higher ones, and that's because of like the hotter weather around the league. So that's just my opinion on it. I mean, if you can go either way you want. I see Gary in the chat. He says that him and Steve are on the Orioles. So if you guys like the Orioles, go for it. Perfectly fine, but I won't be on it. I think I'm good with that. Glock, I don't really got anything to say about Miami and the Phillies. I already said my 2 cents. You said it as well. So let's go on and talk about the stacks. Break it down. Give your final stacks. Give like your top four stacks on this slate for the people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to not talk about Coors being one of my chalkier or, being one of my top stacks. Obviously they're always in play. I mean, it's Coors Field, right? But if I had to choose my top 4, I guess, on the chalkier side, obviously it's going to be Toronto, the Atlanta Braves. And then my more contrarian stacks is, I guess I would like the Mariners and the Twins probably. I think the Twins against Lance Lynn I feel like I've stacked against Lance Lynn every slate he's on, and I'm just going to keep doing it here. Same goes with Atlanta Braves versus the Nationals. Same thing goes against the Toronto Blue Jays versus Kansas City in this series. And then, yeah, I just think Spencer Howard's one of the worst pitchers on the slate. So Seattle has my interest as well in a contrarian slate.
All right, here's my stack. So I'm going to keep Colorado and Pittsburgh off of the stacks. Also, Holden's burner account is entered the chat. So Helmet, if you could take care of that, that'd be appreciated. But here's my top 4 stacks for you. It's Toronto's my number 1. What?
Holden's burner. Yeah, I see the comments are killing me.
I never get why that thing pops up in there. It's very interesting, but Toronto's my number 1. Then I'll follow it up by the Twins and then Houston. And my 4th block, I'm going with St. Louis. Yeah, I was debating if I wanted to put them on there, but I just feel confident in it. And I also I like them a lot for that mini stack. I think they fit that really well. So definitely think I'm going with St. Louis there as my 4th stack. But Let's go with the plays of the day, Glock. I'm not going to, it's a Saturday, right? I'm going to keep it easy on the people. We didn't have to set a number. We got enough likes. If you could give us another like, or not another like, if you give us a like and you haven't, we'd appreciate it. Maybe some of those members were holding back. So hit that home. That way we'll give out those plays of the day right now. Glock, who's your guy? Who do you got as your play of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned Atlanta being one of my favorite stacks. So I think I'm going to go with someone from that team. We don't have the lineup yet officially, I don't think, but I don't think they're going to take out Michael Harris. So I'm going to go with him as my play of the day. Hitting in the 9 hole. He never really gets any ownership. So yeah, I'm going to go with Michael Harris in my Atlanta stack. He will be my play of the day. He's been kind of struggling as of late, but I think he bounces back today and, puts up double digits for us. And maybe even more, like 15 plus.
All right, my play of the day. It's gonna be Matt Chapman in this Blue Jays lineup. He's got a nice little streak going on right now. 2 home runs in his last 2 games, and on top of that, gets a nice lefty here that we can target. So I like Matt Chapman. 3.9K over on DK, guy towards the bottom of the order. So Matt Chapman is going to be my play of the day. But that is gonna wrap it up for us, guys. We got tons of PGA content over here at Run Pure Sports for you guys. Obviously, we got the round 4 showdown coming up, so be sure to check out that show. Then tomorrow, we obviously got some NASCAR stuff. We'll have the bet side on Run Pure Bets. We'll have a show. And I'll tell you this, Joey Work is going to be on the Run Pure Bet side tomorrow doing a show. And I heard Big T showing up for that. And I know people love Big T shows, so you can check that out tomorrow on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. And then, of course, we'll have the Swing for the Fences show tomorrow with JT, Holden, and Gary. They'll be breaking all that down for you right before the All-Star break. And then we get a nice little, break to kind of chill and hang out. Do you have any plans for the All-Star break, Glock, or are you just going to be grinding League of Legends and all those other stuff?
Grinding everything that's not MLB, that's for sure. Getting all the Showdown PGA winners, and then yeah, as much League of Legends and other sports. Is there a NASCAR race tomorrow? Because if there is, then I'm definitely gonna get on that action as well.
Yeah, there should be a race tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's it's 3:16 Eastern. There will be a race, and there's a Xfinity today too, locking in about an hour or so. So there.
I'll definitely be dabbling in everything. Obviously, we have all the sports here at Run Pure for sure, and all the content that helps, like myself. Like I don't know much about really, these niche sports, but our content helps a lot. And, it's always fun to dabble into these other sports, especially when, a flagship sport like the MLB is going on a little break. When NBA goes on break, it's always fun dabbling into hockey and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely excited to get a little break from MLB, but also dabble in other sports as well.
Yep, and Hingo A said Big T. Yes, Big T will. I believe I saw it in one of our chats. It sounds like he's going to jump on with Joey Work on the bet side tomorrow. So be sure to check that out. Obviously, that'll be right after the MLB Swing for the Fences show. So, but that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining here on the MLB Swing for the Fences show with me and Glock. We will see you guys later.